Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai. Hyundai just had a record year. And Sunbury Motors, by the way, a big reason why. And once again, the Sunbury Motors has the great deals. They have the great deals. No getting around it. And not only that, great pre-owned inventory. All at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. We're going to get Tyler Donahue, by the way, next half hour. We're going to do that one, just to make sure that Matt and I are on the same page, since I'm the one changing up the lineup today. We'll get Neil Coulong on tomorrow's show, if that's all right with you, sir. Right?
I'm always good with that. I'll be ready.
Tyler Donahue. And then Rick Boyages. We're going to talk about officiating at 4:06 today. How about that? Yeah. Hey, we'll change it up a little bit. I think it's something people have a lot of opinions about, for example, officiating. Okay. And like anything, you can talk about whatever you like at 30,000 feet. But when you're actually there in the weeds, it's a little bit different. And this is something I said, and I've said this on the show before, but I'll say this. When in basketball, of course, I've always been at practice. I had the ability to watch practice, whatever it may be. And, obviously now after 2.5 decades of, almost 2.5 decades now of doing Penn State football, I'm out there every day. Right? Or have the ability to watch it every day. And somebody said to me, and this, I'm going to go back, Matt, maybe, this might be 15, 20 years ago. Somebody said to me, what has surprised you about the job? And I said, actually, the thing that surprised me about the job was, by being there every day, all the stuff people don't know. That's the part that's surprising. It's like, it's a lot of little things, subtle, a lot of why. It's interesting. It's the stuff that that you don't know. And I think that's the part that surprised me. Let's see. NFC Championship on Fox. Now, why I'm on their email, I have no idea. But when they put everything together, this would be Fox Deportes, over-the-air Fox, Fox Sports Streaming platforms, NFL Digital, Verizon Media mobile properties. The game peaked between 6 o'clock and 6:15 Eastern Time Sunday night at 53 million viewers. 53 million. Now, the matchup drew an average audience of 44.8 million. And obviously, those are dynamic numbers. So, on Fox itself, let's see, they drew 44.8, up 3% over last year's Packers-49ers game, up 8% over last year's comparable TV window, which had been obviously the AFC game. It's the most watched telecast of any kind on any network since Super Bowl 54. On digital, The average minute audience digital was 1.6 million. That's up 58% over last year, up 28% over the previous high. And let's see. Fox Deportes, most watched NFL telecast of the day on Spanish language television. And for the 27th consecutive year, much to the chagrin of the suit, I might add, who is such a Bill Cowher lover that even he is a denier of the Dora the Explorer commercial. For the 27th consecutive season, Fox NFL Sunday was the number one pregame show on television. And for the 27th consecutive year, I'm proud to say I didn't contribute to the rating of either one of them.
And I was a part of that because I love that pregame show. That is the way I start every NFL Sunday.
Wow.
Whether the Eagles are on Fox or not, that is my favorite pregame show, and I start my Sunday watching them.
Really?
I just think it's very, very entertaining. I don't know. It's just a really good product. I don't know. I just always have loved it. I love the theme music. I don't know. It just says Sunday to me, which is why I guess I like the Thursday night package better too now, because I don't know. It just says Sunday football to me.
See, I have no desire to watch, and believe me, I have. Anybody who wants to watch whatever you want. I think it's great. You're into it. You love it, the whole thing. I get nothing out of it. Now, maybe it's because I've just done a full day on Saturday of, you do your own pregame show for 90 minutes, and then you do the game, and then you do a postgame show and the whole thing. It's like I just want to go to the next game. I mean, I will watch the college football highlight postgame stuff because I want to see what happened in other games. And obviously, I usually like to sit down and watch another game when I get home. Do that all the time. But when it comes to Sunday, I just have no desire to see. I just want to get to the game. Now, can you hear that in the background?
No.
No. Well, we actually on the other side of the wall, we're having a heat pump put in.
I heard a little something back there, but it's not bad.
Yeah, after 30 years it went.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do.
Oh, no, 30 years? I think 30 years is a pretty good run. Pretty good run for the old heat pump.
Absolutely.
So we haven't had it for 3 weeks. I mean, we have a wood stove, so we haven't exactly been we have not been freezing in here by any means. But we do have to have it done. So he's in there putting it in today and tomorrow. So, yeah, he's doing his little deal right now. He's terrific at what he does. But, yeah, that's what's happening there. But yet I can't get into it. I mean, I have no problem with anybody who does. I mean, again, everybody makes their own choices what they want to watch. What bothers me, though, about the Cowher commercial is that in order to get perspective on what he watched, the suit's now watching reruns of Dora the Explorer. And I'm not making that up.
I know, especially after all I learned yesterday. I know.
Yesterday had to scare you. I've got several emails from the audience. They were scared too. So, there you go. We're drilling in the background. There we go. We're getting better. Getting closer to heat with each one.
That's what we like to hear.
Actually, for me, in the end, the big part of it is, I just want to get the thought. Since it's done, Let's just get the thing done now because being a heat pump, that means it's my air conditioning in the summer. So I'm thinking more about that than anything else. All right, we'll take a break. Tyler Donahue next half hour. Rick Boyages to the 406 half hour to talk about officiating. One of Matt's favorite topics after Matt's done trashing coaches, he trashes officials, and then he tries inexplicably to see if they can somehow get rid of the owner. I would like to point out, just for job's sake, Matt loves our owner at the radio station. Which we all do. Back with more. I'm just trying to save your backside because there are questions. Here on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Phillies are going to win the pennant. They have signed JT Realamuto after brilliantly bidding against themselves for weeks at $115 million. He had 266. He's the guy that actually had to get back, to be honest with you. But I swear to you, the number went from 90 to 100 to 110 to 115. Who were they bidding against? Seriously. I mean, that'd be the first. We're going to get a Phillies guest on tomorrow. But that would be the first question I'd ask. Who else was bidding? The Mets? No. Yankees? No. Well, that sort of reduces the payroll deal, doesn't it? Dodgers? No. Red Sox weren't. Like, all the big money teams weren't bidding for him. Who are you bidding against? The Blue Jays? Hey, it's not my money. So I'm not that concerned about it. He's the highest paid catcher in the history of the game? Does that sound right?
It's the highest annual value average or something like that for a catcher.
It's a 5-year deal, by the way.
Yeah. Highest average annual value at $23.1 million, which surpasses $23 million from Joe Mauer's 2010 contract.
And he spent most of his time playing first base after that. 29. Look, he's a good player. I mean, there's no getting around. He is a good player. He's only 29 years old, so this would get him to 34. So I'm going to guess this is his last contract with the Phillies. He's a good defensive catcher. He is a catcher that can hit with power. I mean, the last full season he had was in 2019. Like everybody, the last full season anybody had was 2019. He had 25 home runs. And they're going to need that from him this year. They're going to need a 25 home run, 83 RBI season from him. So he's going to go from $10 million a year to $23.1 million. This is a 278 career hitter. Good. Not great, but good. But my question is, when I see the number like that, who else were you bidding against? I just don't see who you were bidding against to get that number. I don't know who the agent is, but the agent might be, somebody where is like the MVP of agents, because he convinced the Phillies that somebody else was involved. The Mets signed McCann. The Yankees are all set at catcher. Plus, you're a big Gary Sanchez guy.
Oh, yeah.
Do you like anybody?
I wanted the Yankees to go after Realmuto. It was lower on the totem pole. I'm glad that they've addressed the pitching, but do you like anybody? I do. Just do your job correctly and I'll like you. He didn't do half his job correctly. He doesn't block the plate. He can hit the heck out of the ball. I'll give him that credit. But he doesn't know how to block the plate, and he refuses to do it correctly. He is the only catcher in the league that I have ever seen that is too lazy to get down and block a ball that he's got to lay one leg out so he doesn't have to go down as far. Give me a break.
So what doesn't he do at the plate?
He doesn't block the plate.
And because of that, I've already decided that for the holidays, I'm going to get you a block of cheese to go with your persistent whine.
Now that was good. Touche.
I'm just having fun with it. Look, you can't have fun doing this job. It's not worth doing. Mr. Keels wants to know if I'm live or remote. Told him I'm going remote tomorrow for Ohio State. Yes. We're going to talk football, by the way, with Tyler Donahue next half hour. I'm looking forward to that. Because you know what I don't have to do with Tyler?
Talk him off the ledge?
I don't have to buy a block of cheese. Just thought I'd throw that out there. No, I just want to make sure you knew that.
Thank you.
What did the suit get you for the holidays this year, by the way?
He got me a nice card. And actually, yeah, I think that was it. He just gave me a card. I was confusing. He gave me some new clothes for Luke, but I think that was for his birthday or something, or I forget when, but he did do that, but it wasn't for Christmas. So the answer is yes, a card.
Well, after all the handouts in Ward 4 to try and keep his spot, I got nothing. All right, so...
To be fair, I gave him a card as well, so there you go.
Oh, no, to be fair, I gave him nothing. Hey, how about Alan Urbanowitz? Alan Urbanowitz, thank you so much. Likes the show. Send us a like on Facebook. Thank you, Alan, for doing that. We appreciate that and appreciate you very much and everybody else who listens and also sends out the likes. Tyler Donahue, 24/7 Sports. Next half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai. Great new inventory. Hyundai coming off a record year, and Sunbury Motors a big reason why. Also, great pre-owned inventory. Sales staff's going to work with you because, look, your budget is what it is, and you know what you want to pay, and they want to make sure that what you're buying fits your budget. They work with you. And you want a service department that, if it's a big problem, they know how to take care of it, but they're also great at routine maintenance that makes a big difference in what you're doing. We're a few minutes away. We're going to get Tyler Donahue, 24/7 Sports on. It's all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. So Tyler Donahue in a few moments. Oh, thought we had a call there for a second, Matt, which we would have taken. And then we'll talk to him about Penn State football. And Rick Boyages on officiating next half hour. And we've had a lot of people say, hey, I know either they didn't get a chance to listen to the podcast, but they wanted to hear Kale Sanderson again. No, I don't blame him. I mean, look, let's face it, that was a great get for us last week. So we're going to hear from him because when we had Kale on, he could do 3:35 last week. Was it Friday we had him on?
Yeah, it was Friday.
Yeah, it was 3:35. So we decided, hey, you know what? Since enough people want to hear it again, we'll turn it over an hour later at 4:35. So we'll do that in the next hour. So that's how it's going to play out. So if you missed it the first time, or you want to rehear it, or if you heard it on the podcast, you want to rehear it, you're going to get a chance at 4:35 today. We edited out all the stuff about the suit stalking the program.
I noticed that.
I thought it was important. I mean, how many times? Suit late. I don't know. Does he have eligibility left?
I'm going to say a big no on that one.
I don't know. Actually, he might. He's been out of school, what, a year and a half?
I might be 2 years, but
he might have eligibility.
I didn't think of that. That's true.
Which makes Daddy Dearest even more dangerous. All right, so it's kind of like the Faye Dunaway of dads. What the? I'm telling you, my kid's Rudy. Oh, everybody, run for your lives. My kid's Rudy. Oh, gee. How bad was it today with the ice? Are you still getting ice there? So we're still getting some.
It's been kind of on and off all day. I don't think it's doing anything in particular right now. Just kind of depends on where you are.
Yeah, we're kind of the same way. I think for the most part we haven't, but the temperature didn't get as high as they said it was going to get either. It's supposed to get to 38 today. We haven't even come close to that.
Yeah, we've been steady right around 30.
Ice. That's why it stayed icy.
Yep.
That's the problem we had. It just didn't get above 32. And big issue. The basketball team flying to Columbus, and then game is tomorrow night, 7. And then they got Wisconsin here Saturday at 3, and then they go to Wisconsin after that. And people have asked me, in fact, Dick asked me, in the regular season, has it ever happened they play the team back-to-back? And I said, yeah, once. It was a terrible circumstance, awful. They were supposed to play Iowa at Rec Hall. And Chris Street, and whenever you walk past the Iowa locker room at Carver Hawkeye, they have the plaque up for Chris Street. I think it was a restaurant. I think he was pulling out of a restaurant in his car, and he got hit by a snowplow. It was like awful, just terrible. So obviously Iowa didn't come here to play the game, and the way the schedule fell is that Iowa had an opening, Penn State had an opening, and so they ended up playing back-to-back. They played at Rec Hall first, and then they went to Carver Hawkeye right after that. So it happened back, I want to say 1993 it actually happened. So that's the way the schedule is right now. But, again, people left the Jordan Center on Saturday night thinking it was going to be Michigan. And a half hour after I got home, we found out that they had to pause. And then it really, when you find that out, you're looking around saying, okay, we're open. Who else is open? Now, the first one I looked at, just out of happenstance, was Ohio State. And it turned out, I noticed they didn't have another game till Saturday. And I got a hold of Dick. I said, I think we're going to play Ohio State Wednesday. And they did. So that's what they turned out. All right. Tyler Donahue, 24/7 Sports. All right, let's get into it with him. Welcome to the program, sir. Great to have you with us.
Hey, I'm happy to be back, and I hope you've been well.
Been very well. Hope you've been well.
No complaints here.
All right, so I've been mapping this out, and it's something that Jack Ham and I have talked about. Jack and I had a conversation on December 15th, and I said, the next 4 weeks between then and January 18th, which was the last day to declare for the draft, I said it would be 4 very important weeks for Penn State. How do you think those 4 weeks played out between letter of intent day in terms of transfers, in, out, and how the roster and who's decided to stay?
Yeah, wow. There's been so much to digest with how this roster has gradually shifted. I mean, ultimately, I think what you're bringing in versus what you're losing here, you got to be really happy with the results if you're a Nittany Lions fan. You didn't get any major splash at the end of the recruiting cycle, at least not ahead of the early signing period in December. But you kept everybody on board. You avoided any kind of late surprises and someone leaving the class. And I think, by the way, keeping all 15 of those commits on board, most of them through the 0-5 start and afterward, and a lot of those guys hadn't been to campus in a while. Very impressive by Penn State staff, long-term relationships, long-distance relationships. I look at the transfer additions that they have. I mean, these guys have played football. These guys have played a lot of college football, and I think it's one thing to go out and get some fancy names, guys who maybe 2 or 3 years ago were 4 or 5 star prospects, but maybe haven't materialized on a college football field. You're getting 3 guys from the Power 5 level who have started experience. John Dixon at cornerback at South Carolina, and defensive lineman Derek Tangelo out of Duke, and then running back John Lovett out of Baylor. And then you're getting a guy at Temple who was an all-conference player at the FBS level last year, and Albert Ebiketie. So I think, you combine that with who you lost in the transfer portal. Some of those names are promising. You had high hopes for guys like T.J. Jones and Judge Culpepper at one point. But they just have not proven it to this point in the field. They'll get another chance to do that somewhere else. And, Antonio Shelton, a guy that was, always visibly fired up and someone who I think was playing some of his best football as a fifth-year senior. Wish him well with the Florida Gators, but I don't think you're going to deal with a major slip there. I think they'll continue to explore it, but I look at kind of the end result of the equation, and I would say Penn State comes out of this whole deal, and they're not done yet, of course, as you know, but they come out of it right now, late January, I think, as an improved football team.
And again, the NCAA did not say you can have extra players on scholarship. It's still at 85. So, when it comes to the Shelton situation, he is taking a 6th year. There is nobody at Penn State taking a 6th year.
Correct. And by the way, speaking of, I didn't even talk about the guys that you retain.
Yes.
Jahan Dotson, I mean, the way he finished the season, you couldn't have blamed him if he went to the next level, regardless of how deep the wide receiver class might be. I think he had 440-some all-purpose yards the last couple of games combined. So, obviously, he's your number one target. You've got the emerging Parker Washington right alongside him.
Yes.
And I think, Keandre Lambert-Smith, you still like what you're going to get there. You got a lot of names at receiver. But then also Jaquan Brisker. You want to talk about someone who was ascending over the course of the 2020 season. I think there's a case to be made that by the end of this 2021 year, you could view Brisker and Dotson as the most important playmakers on either side of the football. I think Brisker has a lot more to prove in that regard, but yeah, it's both those guys. I fully could have anticipated them, shifting gears and trying to go get a paycheck.
What does the hiring of Mike Yurcich mean, not just to the current product, what also can it mean in the recruiting of the future product?
Well, I can tell you it's got some juice in the recruiting trail with some of the quarterbacks we've spoken with, whether it's the 2022 guys and, maybe adding to the class. They already have Bo Prabula, the top Pennsylvania prospect at the position, but maybe they go for a 2-quarterback class, something they did back in 2019. And then, even down the road with some of these sophomores who are going to be juniors this upcoming fall, it gives you a bit of a national reach because he's got the Big 12 time. He's got the Ohio State days. He's got the Oklahoma State days. So you kind of spread a very large map, and he's interacted with a lot of different people on the recruiting trail. And I think just in general, the move and kind of what that required James Franklin to do, moving away from Kirk Ciarrocca and how difficult that really has to be after 1 year, and considering what 2020 was, even more difficult. It kind of shows you that James Franklin is, very much all in. And I thought what he said about the quarterback play last week was very telling that position needs to take another step. It did not take that step last year. And if you turn on football that first week of January and look at who's playing, there's really, really high-level quarterback play involved there.
Yeah, no question. There's no question about that. And, in fact, we'll be seeing some of those names in April come up on a board. All right, so what would it mean on the recruiting front for Penn State? Everybody's had to adapt, but at some point we're going to transition out of this. That people will be able to get back to making visits and so forth at some point. What does that mean to Penn State in particular? Because that's been the formula that's worked so often.
Yeah, they got to fire up the golf carts again, get these players all around campus. It's been a long time. That you go back to last March since they had somebody on campus in an official capacity. You have some guys come and check it out on their own with their parents. But, yeah, I think immediately, April 15th is the date that we're still working with as far as the in-person recruiting being shut down. If it gets lifted in mid-April, then you're talking about right away official visits with the juniors who were part of this 2022 class. It's the early official visit window was not available last year. I think it's proved to be a very pivotal part of the recruiting calendar, especially with the early signing period. It gives some players and their parents a little bit more confidence to commit before their senior season, and they don't have to go into the season trying to juggle how they're going to schedule those official visits. So I think that would be a huge step in the right direction. And then let's face it, it's very difficult to get heights, weights, verified 40-yard dash time, verified leaping abilities right now. I know they got the virtual combine set up like a lot of programs do, but you're going to want to get the guys to campus, and you're going to want to measure them up and time them out and find out who really is a next-level athlete, because high school production is great. The film is great. You want to not only see them as physical specimens, you also want to see them what their personalities are like. Get them in a room. Get mom and dad in a room. Get their siblings in a room. Get to know the family face-to-face, because there's a lot, I think, that both sides of the equation can hide when you're doing kind of the Zoom or you're doing the FaceTime. And then there's things that are just lost in translation and you're not going to get a feel for. So Penn State, Happy Valley, it's not a place you stumble upon. It's not a place that you usually would pass on your way to somewhere. It's a destination. You got to make time for it. You got to make a schedule for it if you're a player and your family. So I think the first thing you're watching for is those potential official visits, and the next thing is open the floodgates for camps. And like you, I hope we're very close to transitioning away from what has been just a supremely long pause, and one that I can't imagine what it's going to mean long term for these players who had to commit to schools that they'd never visited.
On December 16th, when they had the signing class with 15, more than half of those had been to a Penn State camp. Give me the value of that camp, and probably a lot of it goes to the answer you just gave.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is the verifiable things, to get your own eyeballs on it. You'll see James Franklin there, down on one knee with the stopwatch in his hand, getting 40-yard dash times.
Yeah.
And they know who they're looking for. It's not like they're going to these camps and throwing darts at a board. They have some priorities in mind when these camps open. You want to get guys in certain matchups. You want to maybe bring guys to the side for some extra work late in the day, see how they move around the field. And sometimes you figure out, well, we thought this kid might be a wide receiver coming to campus, but he really might be a safety, or we thought this kid might be a safety, but he's really going to be a linebacker at the Power 5 level if he's going to be most successful. So those are things you can do with verifiable eyeballs. I think the other thing is peer recruiting goes to another level. It's one thing to be part of a text thread or being on some group Zooms, but to be elbow to elbow on campus with another commit, it's won over other recruits. It's helped push guys to the finish line, because you get a feel for not only this is the campus, these are my feet are on the ground at the place I could call home one day, but you're also looking around the room, or you're looking around the group you're with in the field and saying, this could be my roommate one day. This guy and I could get an apartment. You're talking about lifelong relationships. So there's a lot of breaking of the ice that happens along with all the verifiable measurements I'm talking about.
First Wednesday in February is coming up. Any expectations on your part regarding Penn State?
Yeah, I think you're still looking for Penn State to make a move at defensive end. Devon Townley is a guy that we've been watching closely. He's going to announce there in February out of Minnesota. But I still wonder. Franklin mentioned this last week. They have wiggle room, and do you go the high school route, or do you go the transfer route, or do you do a blend of both? I don't think they're done the transfer portal. I don't think they're done with the high school players, but there just have not been a lot of names at the high school level to surface to this point. Harrison Wallace kind of came out of nowhere late before December with wide receiver out of Alabama, never got to campus but committed. It's just hard to see. Like, normally you'd see some January official visits and guys getting to campus for the first time. It's a difficult task, I think, for parents and prospects, and also this Penn State coaching staff with some moving parts there, to really go all in on a 17, 18-year-old right now. So I still think we're going to see them go after the 21, 22-year-old, grad transfers, guys with some experience. But I think defensive end is the spot where you look at the roster right now, and unless someone's changing over from linebacker or moving outside from defensive tackle, you've got to address the numbers there.
What's been your thought on the transfer portal? You need to be involved in. It's just, in today's football, it's just the way it needs to be. How do you think Penn State's handled it? Because it's a transition they've had to make.
Right. I mean, to this point, going into this winter, Jordan Stout was pretty much far and away the most meaningful addition that they've had through the transfer portal. They were going to get a kid a couple of years ago, George Campbell out of Florida State, wide receiver, ended up at West Virginia. It didn't work out, but he would have been an interesting addition. Mm-hmm. Weston Carr was kind of a letdown coming from the Division II All-American and didn't really produce. So I think, you look around, you see not just that quarterback. Quarterback's the obvious one. Last year it's 3 of the 4 quarterbacks in the playoffs started out at a different school than the one they're representing in the playoffs.
Right.
And so quarterback's the easy one, but you look around, you just see how teams can fill those different holes they need. And Penn State has clearly identified they had to be more active. And hey, look, Penn State is a brand that players are going to associate with, long-term NFL aspirations and a proud history on the football field at the college level. And a lot of these guys they're bringing in did not have a Penn State offer coming out of high school. So it's a cool experience for some of those guys. Others, maybe you're circling back with. John Dixon's a good example. He made an official visit to Penn State in high school, and now here he is a few years later after spending time in the SEC, and he ends up here. But I would say it's a lot like the draft and free agency. If you're a successful NFL franchise, you're going to do the roster building through that draft, but you're going to find the supplemental pieces and maybe the parts that push you over the top through free agency, through trade acquisitions. And I think right now you're seeing personnel departments in college football really being pushed to take that approach, and the ones who are ahead of the curve are the ones that are going to be coming out of here in the next 3, 4, 5 years with the most success, I would imagine.
Tyler, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me. Good talking to you.
Sunbury Motors Ford is bringing in 2021 with a bang. SMC has just received shipments of the all-new 2021 Ford F-150. Save up to $9,000 on the totally redesigned F-150, which was just awarded North America's Truck of the Year for 2021. Sunbury Motors has 67 F-150s in stock and arriving soon. SMC is introducing the highly anticipated 2021 Ford Bronco Sport. The new Bronco's retro design reflects its iconic heritage from the 60s and 70s. Sunbury Motors has them in stock, starting at just $28,200. Pick from 61 of the top-selling Ford Escapes with savings up to $8,250 and slash to as low as $22,380. SMC is where you want to be in January for discounts up to $11,000 on the largest selection of new Fords in the Susquehanna Valley. And everyone is clearly marked for this massive sale. Sunbury Motors Ford in the 4th Street Auto Plaza, proudly serving all of central Pennsylvania for over a century. Hurry, sale ends Monday the 1st.